guys ready? You guys done? You guys ready?
Are you ready? Are you
I'm
ready?
Put me in, coach.
2.
I'm ready.
1. Yeah, awesome. We did the clap.
Did the clap.
You got the clap. EWS.
Yep. Been there. Had that. Vegas, 97.
What? Didn't need to know the date and place.
I'm just saying.
And you don't talk
happened.
about what happens in Vegas. What happens in
talk
Vegas
about it.
stays in Vegas. You
Except
brought it
for
home.
The clap. I
You
brought
just
it home.
brought the clap home.
I did. I brought the clap home. It happened. Don't worry. They have a shot for that. I got rid of it.
They have a shot.
Little penicillin.
It's okay.
Yeah, well, you got to cultivate.
What the fuck are we cultivating? No.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
No, we don't. No.
Got to maintain a warm, moist environment.
No.
That's just the inside of my jeans.
All right.
So you ever worked in the kitchen? Trust me, these hams, they get sweaty.
These hams.
That's a tip I didn't need to know
I got
about.
these hams.
Yeah, well, anyways. Okay, welcome to Eating While Standing, everybody.
Hello.
Yo, what's up?
It's a new episode of the week. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So we've talked about this a lot, and we've gone kind of like touched on the subject. We've always kind of bitched about it, or we've, given a little bit of information. Today we want to actually talk and give a whole conversation about modern tipping in America.
Right? I mean, all right.
Yeah, I don't know why I went with Count Dracula all of a sudden.
Yeah, you went very You went like Count from Sesame Street. One.
Exactly.
You
You get $1.
You get 1%. Fuck you.
I think Count
Seriously.
from Sesame Street is my favorite Dracula,
Probably.
and he definitely counts.
Yep. He counts as Dracula. That's true. So anyway, okay, so let's just get this party started here. The reason why we wanted to do this is because tipping is a very sorry, this is my idea actually. I kind of like put this on everybody, so I apologize.
Yeah, but
But-
I think we've all wanted to talk about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have too much experience with it, so I just know how unfair it is and how we feel about that, how back of the house and the front of the house, the difference in it,
Yeah.
Like a server can
I see
come
that.
in and work for 4 hours and make $200 because they did a good job and they got tipped, but I can come in for 8 hours and make less.
This is a very true thing.
And I'm doing way more work than that server is,
Well,
I had to be there for a lot more shit than that server did. That server has to polish silverware and fill up glasses. You know how much side work and prep work I have to do before I can start my shift? How much do you have to do? You got to cut all the onions, cut all the garlic, do this, slice tomatoes.
after yesterday was
Stock a
enough to kind of like
station,
I
yeah.
think show everybody, because like they even asked me the question. It was just like at the end of the day when I started running out of food, it was just like, because we got our butts handed to us to the point I couldn't prep a thing. I worked by myself. There was nothing that could get prepped.
Yeah, and that's
So
hard.
it was just like, okay, great. So when we started running out of food, everybody was just like, what do you mean? Why are we running out of food though? It's just like, do you think I had time to prep it?
Right? I showed up and this shit show started off.
I haven't stopped making food since I got here. It's 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I'm closing. Like I can't. I have no way of making the food magically happen. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, but
There is.
the focus really isn't about that though. This is more about like how tipping got ingrained into American culture and why is it so accepted and just so it's such a heavy part of the system now that there's almost no way back unless
there's no
without
removing
something
it.
completely radical and crazy happening.
Yep. Kind of like the 1916 law, to where if you accept a tip, you can be arrested.
That's
I think
part
we should
of it,
do that.
I
So,
guess this
bring that
backdrop
back.
of tipping fatigue that we're seeing now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
now-
tipping fatigue
I think
now.
who was
now.
it? It was some Scott. Hold on, I know I pulled it up earlier.
Yeah, I saw a video the other day to where it was a serviceless like restaurant. You came in, you did it on the iPad, you ordered your food, and the food came out. Somebody cooked the food. The food came out, and then when they went to go pay, it asked if you wanted to tip. And he panned around the whole place. He was like, there's not a single person here that has helped me do anything. Who am I tipping at this point in time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
not even clear where the tip is going. Like,
Yeah.
a tip is
there's
not
some-
just an arbitrary. Like, it's for an individual That's why it works so well in the service industry, because you see someone, you have someone right there,
Yep.
and then there's kind of a social pressure.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it too. Is like
Yeah.
the actual pressure. Is like people don't just tip just because like they feel like the person did a good job. It's almost out of like embarrassment. It's kind of like if I don't tip, this person's going to think I'm an idiot or think I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
So
Or the people
I feel
around them.
pressure to tip. Yeah, it's like
other people at the table, or if you're like on a date,
Yeah,
like what if two people go out and the person that pays the bill pays and doesn't tip, and the other person sees that? I mean,
You're judged?
what do you what do you think about the character of that
Judged.
person that they're not willing to tip? Like, you think they're cheap, or like they're insensitive or whatever it is, but there's a lot of social pressures outside of pressure from the staff
yeah.
Yeah.
can be put on you.
So let's get into this then, I guess. So really, the history of like how America even got tipping is there's always been all these different theories. But what I found out through just various, I think there was a Times article, there was a Washington Post article that I read at one point. There was a couple documentaries, and a couple videos I watched online. There's a lot of articles. There's a lot of ways to find out about this, but where it came from could start in like the Roman era,
Yep.
but it's predominantly what happened was after the Civil War, because before the Civil War, it really wasn't an American thing. Americans didn't tip for shit. Americans didn't even know about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It started after that with wealthy Americans visiting Europe and going into these areas where they began like in the medieval era, that wealthy people would go to people's homes and visit, and then they would tip the servants for doing a good job. It's like if they got good service while they were visiting someone else's home, wealthy visitors would tip.
Yep. Yeah.
And
It seemed sophisticated.
well, yeah,
It made them look sophisticated. Like, we're from America, and yes,
exactly.
we have lots of money to tip you servants.
And not only that, they also had places where they would have bowls set up out in the front of the establishments. And
Like tip
where
pools?
tip, yeah, it's literally it's like where
All right.
the word tip literally comes from. It says to ensure promptness,
Service. Yeah, promptness.
to ensure promptness, and that's TIP,
Yeah.
tip. And you'd leave a coin, you would leave a little bit of change or something like that in there, and that you would get faster service.
How the fuck they gonna know if whether I tipped or didn't tip?
Well, it's usually because it's like usually when it was a
I
forward.
think that's kind of how the churches started off taking donations too.
You want to get to heaven faster?
Right.
Put some money in the bowl.
10% of your check every week needs to go to Jesus.
Depending on which church you go to, I'm pretty sure that's part of
Yeah.
it. You buy your way in.
Buy
Yeah.
your way into heaven. There you go. Oh god. Yeah. Oh,
To
yeah.
ensure prompt
We'll have
service.
to talk about this later,
Cool.
but I actually like my Uber driver yesterday was actually a cultist, and he tried to like recruit me into a cult. It was kind of funny.
All right.
But
For another episode, Zach joins a cult.
there you go.
Oh man, we're gonna lose him.
We are not paying your dues.
No, not at all.
But okay, so that was like mid 1800s though, is about when it finally reached America.
Yep. Yep.
I think it was like it was 1850s that
Somewhere
George,
around there,
George
yeah.
Pullman, after the Civil War, to where it was started up his luxury trains, his
Yep.
sleeper cars,
Yep.
and he hired a boatload of freed slaves,
Yep.
and
And
he
he was-
wouldn't pay, barely paid them anything,
$0.
but he would
actually.
encourage.
Yep.
He would actually encourage all of his guests to give tips, to
Yep.
give money to the employees as like an appreciation. That all their employees have this incentive to give great service as much as they can, because that's how they make their money. They're reliable, and then people that are riding the trains get to ride on a cheaper train because he doesn't have to pay labor costs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with these trains, guess what? It just travels all over the country. Tipping is now exposed to the American lifestyle
Yep.
of the rich and bored.
So now they feel sophisticated. They feel like they're doing their extra part by giving somebody that's getting paid $0 an hour. Here's an extra dollar. I mean, not even a dollar back then. It was probably a shilling or something.
yeah.
A few
it's-
cents, yeah.
There's just a few
Yeah.
cents.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, a
Like a
quarter
penny?
was. Quarter got you a good bit back
Right?
at the time.
Mhm.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. They'd probably never seen a dollar in their life.
Some people, maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe not.
Yeah.
They probably never, got that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think they
Yeah.
still had $100 bills. They had $500 bills.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But like those were like uber rich people. I feel like,
Yeah,
you know,
that was Bill
Before you really
Gates.
had checks and whatnot, like you had to travel with cash. Cash
Yeah.
was kind of it for the once
Yeah.
you had that central reserve system. So
I don't know. Those were probably like plantation owners, things like that.
Yeah.
People with a lot of property, a lot
Industry
of
owners,
servants,
anybody,
a lot
yeah.
of things
You
like
know what I'm
that.
saying? The Rockefellers or some shit like
The
that.
Rockefellers,
Yeah, them rich
great
ass white
oysters.
people.
Not a big fan of the family.
Yeah.
I actually
I don't know
don't
the
mind
family.
the idea that tips, the concept of what we say to ensure prompt service.
Mhm.
Yes.
Like that makes sense because I want to be rewarded for being good at what I do, not just
Yeah.
being tipped arbitrarily. But if I'm getting tipped and I feel like I've earned it, that feels right.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we should tip, because if I go out and the server does go above and beyond and checks on me and does all those things, that's when I do give a good tip. Now, if I go out and the server scatterbrained, the server never checked on me, server didn't do their job at all,
Yeah.
regardless of server, bartender, saying anything like that, just didn't do a very good job, then their tip goes down.
Yeah.
And that's where you do have that decision to do it. Now, you don't always want to be the person that doesn't tip at all.
Yeah,
but
it drops, but
you
generally
need
I don't tip any
to,
less than 10% for
gauge
like
your
really
tips
bad
on the
service.
service that you received. I think
Yeah.
that's how it should always be. And that's how I do it. Plain and simple. Get great service, great tip.
Yeah.
Shitty service, shitty tip.
Yeah.
Sorry, player. Try harder next time. I'm not going to see that person ever again. I don't feel guilty whether I gave them a good tip or a bad tip. I feel the same way. If I give you a good tip, I gave you a good tip because you did a good job.
Damn right. And I think, that's kind of like the whole reason for this. I really wanted to do this was not just to get into it because I'm curious, and I think people do. I think people should be educated on this though.
There you
Because
go.
it's not. There's so many people that you see gets like stiffing people
Yeah,
or doing that kind of stuff.
But it's gonna work out for servers. Always does though. Like they get
it can,
stiffed,
but it's
and then the next person that comes through, gives you that person plus more.
that
And I've seen
mentality.
that
That
happen.
mentality is not exactly is not the healthiest thing in this industry. I think
It's
because
not
if you do that, because then if everybody constantly thinks that way, like if
Yeah.
enough people think that way, that means that one person or a smaller majority of people, a smaller minority of people
Yeah.
are going to have to now carry the weight of that labor cost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of
'Cause-
how it's always been, though. Like you said with history, it's kind of how it started off.
Not in
It started
America.
off with the richer
Yeah.
upper class
Yeah.
tipping the lower class. It was never the lower class that was obligated to do that. So if I come from the lower class, I'm one of you. So what obligates me to tip you when I'm already the same level as you?
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie, yeah. That's it. How it feels to be into that working class.
This is exactly what happened next, though, because like after it started after tipping spread throughout, because Pullman with his trains spread basically the stuff all over the
Yeah.
place, and as it got on, it's traveled into more of the hotels and things like that. And because before this, again, like we said, people didn't know about tipping. They didn't
Yeah.
think about tipping.
Yeah.
People were getting paid wages.
Yeah.
So when people did actually give that money back then, it wasn't used as supplement anymore. Like people were started tipping for that reason.
Yeah.
Because it was like, you gave me great service, I'm going to give you a tip.
Yeah. But they
On
were still
top of
getting
your wage.
fair wages, yes.
And it was a reward, and it was their incentive then at that point to increase and to keep doing a good job, because
Yeah.
they were like, I get paid already, and now I get paid even more if I do better. Fuck yeah, I want to do as best. I'm going to do the best
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that created that incentive in them.
That is a gray area on that history, though, because like you said in the beginning, that the Pullman guy was paying freed slaves $0 an hour, but you can have a job, and if you do a good job, you get tipped. Then it became to where they were still getting paid a wage, and they were getting tipped on top of that wage.
Well, he was
Yes.
still paying them wage. He couldn't do that because that is actually slavery. He couldn't do that. He actually did pay them wages.
Yeah.
It's just they were small
very,
wages.
very low.
It's essentially the model that we use now for like when they did minimum wage, because minimum wage again wasn't started until after all this.
Okay, yeah.
So, just the process of how that all happened, he was still paying them wages.
You're
Yes,
still paying them very low
he
wages.
paid them low wages, but he paid them wages.
Okay,
So they did
that's
make
never
money.
changed then. So we're still paying low wages, and you can make up on tips then.
And that's where we're kind of heading towards. Because
Okay.
like this is where it starts getting ingrained. Because like before all that happened, before we got to where we are now, this is where it started.
Okay.
Where it started off kind of slow. It took decades for tipping to catch on.
Yeah.
because it's like 1850 was like when it got introduced to America, and like now we're starting to head closer to like the 1900s.
Yeah.
And to where people are now tipping it more like, it started like, especially in hotels, and a lot of hotels, most of like restaurants and stuff like that, were at the bottom of a hotel. So it's flooded into the restaurants. And then a whole industry was kind of built around tipping, where people started, they started kind of going off the Pullman model of, okay, so you mean I can pay smaller wages and push my labor cost onto the public?
I mean, yeah, when you look at it that way, but I look at it the way to where I can pay these employees lower, the customer can subsidize that, and then I can give the customer cheaper rates on their food.
But if the customer does that and then has the tip, they're still spending the same amount of money. You're still shifting the pay.
I agree.
It just takes the responsibility off of the business. So the business sees all the profit, whereas the customer gets more responsibility.
I mean, that's the objective of a business, is always to see profit. So regardless of which way they do it, they can upcharge the hotel rooms to $200 from $100 to $200 and just pay the servants and the bellhops and the valets, fair wages.
They were trying to do that. A lot of places did that. William Scott, like who I was trying to talk about before, he called it un-American. He called it, flunkyism. People didn't want tipping. There was a large opposition to tips in the back in the day, because they didn't want America to become what it eventually did become. They said they didn't want to have the responsibility of what the companies were supposed to be responsible for. And it got to a point where it's like we were talking about. You were talking about in 1916, they started legislating banning tipping.
Yeah, Georgia was one of them.
Yeah, you weren't allowed to tip, or else you got arrested.
Yeah.
Was it mostly the southern states that were trying to do that?
I don't think it was mainly
just
southern.
That one southern state, and then like Iowa tried it. There's only two states that really tried it.
Okay.
And then all the other southern states around it did not agree with that. So that's pretty much where it became like, no, we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's a lot of context around that with, about abolition of slavery, but still trying to have some control in that respect.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming a lot of this was solidified after World War II.
After World
Because
War,
then we got globally involved. It wasn't just us figuring out our stuff. Now we're like involved in everyone's business, and people are coming over here because we have the only real market. So you have a lot of travelers, and all of a sudden they're intermingling, and it's like, please tip your money, tip your foreign money to us, because we just won you a war.
Yeah. Because that does surprise me,
Not
too.
single-handedly.
Like European, you'll hear about that, like European countries and other people that travel over Australia, places like that, and they're over in America. And like as a server, if you get one of those like Europeans, like, oh, they're European, they're not going to tip me. I wonder why they haven't figured out and why they still don't even accept our customs,
Yeah, so Becca brought this up, and I've never really thought about it, but
Becca is a person we work with, by the way, everybody.
Yeah.
Cool. Shout out to Becca. What's up, homie?
You go over to Europe and you try and tip, they get offended.
Yeah.
But they come here and they don't tip, and we're not supposed to be offended by that?
No, and we do get offended. Of course we do.
But it's like, I don't understand. Like, we're trying to show our custom to you, and you're going to get mad and refuse, which you can refuse. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
But you're going to get mad about it, but then to come over here and ignore our customs entirely, even though we're having this whole conversation about whether they should exist or not.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's how we live. That's how we survive. And you're just like, no.
Well, it's
like, that's a fucked up double standard.
It is.
It is a fucked up double standard, because I do believe in that sense of, like, if you go somewhere, if I visit another country, I'm not going to sit there walking around acting like, I'm an American, I'm going to be an American here, I'm going to do everything American way. It's, I'm going to respect your ways. I'm going to, if I fuck up, let me know. I'll try to, adapt as much as possible.
Yeah.
I want to respect you and your culture.
Just try.
Exactly. I'm not going to fuck up your economy because I'm ignorant American.
Right.
But if you come over to fucking our country like that, yeah, exactly. It's just like, I'm sorry, this is the way we do things. I know that it's a very American thing to do. I know that it's not worldwide. I know this is not exactly how the world works. But that's how we work.
Yeah. You can't pretend like you don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, not
I
at
hate to
this point
say
in
it,
time.
but we are America.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Everyone kind of knows.
Comes
You
back
probably
with
see more of
stories.
our news in
Yeah.
your country than you do your own news.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like,
You
it's
come back with
surprisingly, a lot of other
stories, though.
countries care more about our geopolitical state than we do.
That's because we're kind of like, that really unstable, like mentally
America
handling,
is
just like
awesome.
Our decisions
crazy
affect
fucking
other
uncle.
countries.
So guys, like, yeah,
we're just kinda like,
America,
whatever.
Fuck yeah.
people are scared of us. Like, is this like they're watching our news because they're like, oh no, are they about to? Who are they going to? Who are they going to come after us?
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a good feeling.
yeah, Jesus, man.
We may got problems. We got big dick.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like unpatriotic when I say these kind of things. It's like I do actually like respect and love America. My issue though is not really my
All
issue.
day. These
I
colors
just
don't
think that we
run.
can do better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We should always be looking at ways to improve.
Yeah.
Never,
Yeah, I
never
mean-
assume that we're just like, yeah, we got to figure it out. No, we clearly got plenty of shit to figure out.
I think it just
Lot of
works though. The
stuff.
tipping system in America works. You're never going to hear
It
a
works.
server really complain about tipping.
So that's
The only
thing,
people
like,
that really complain is the cooks and the chefs. We're the ones that complain
Here's
about how
where
it's not
I
fair.
don't complain about the tipping, but even I spent before I work now. So I had one job where I did pretty well, and then the job now. But in that interim, like that 4-year period in between, I bounced between 4 or 5 different restaurants where I was like barely making it.
Oh,
making
congratulations.
like
Welcome
60 to
my fucking
150
world.
a day.
Yeah.
It's just not enough.
Oh man, poor you. I was
Well, that's
making
like,
that.
it just
I made that
sucked.
always, you know what I'm saying? And that's how it does. It always does suck, it does. Because even as a cook and a chef, if I was only at a restaurant for 2 or 3 months and then I moved on to the next one, sometimes I would take a little bit of a pay cut because I knew that if I take a pay cut now, maybe a quarter, 50 cents, $1, whatever it was, I was going to make it up as long as I stayed there long enough, And I've done that lots of times in my life just because I wanted that job. So I took a pay cut in order to get that job. And the bigger picture was I'm going to make more if I stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think every position is going to experience
And that
that
depends
when
on
you're
where
jumping
you're at
back and
because-
forth.
as well, though. Even as a chef, it's like I know I'm not going to make any more money where I'm working right now, really.
Yeah.
Even if I stick there.
Yeah.
And honestly, what you were just talking about, like that, what you said, you were barely making that much money. Yeah, that's what I make now.
That's
Yeah.
what we
And
do.
your high
Yeah.
is more than what I make now. So
Yeah.
it's like you were saying, you can barely make it. I can't make it.
Yeah.
It's just
So it's like
We've been
literally
doing
it's
that
like
for 20,
what you
30
considered
years.
unlivable is where I'm at.
For the last 20, 30 years.
I say I'm not boo-hooing the fact that I didn't make that much money, but it's 50% of the industry and whatever the percentages are, but 50% probably do pretty well, and 50% probably eat it. Like the Waffle House employee that doesn't get tipped on to-go orders, even though they might be the cook and server. In that
They
restaurant.
automatically do. Waffle House charges you 20% on to-go orders.
I actually
dude.
found out a
Okay.
bit of troublesome
Yeah.
news about
But
Waffle
it's-
House that made me a little bit more like I don't like you as a
Ooh,
company.
I
I
wanna
like your
know.
employees,
Wow.
but
What'd
Yeah,
you
well,
learn?
Wahoo has
Ooh,
some.
I wanna know.
They have some stuff.
Oh,
they
what do
got
they
some
have?
pretty suspicious shit.
Oh, really? Oh.
Like
Tea time? I like tea. Oh, it's tea time.
Okay, I want to get back to the tipping here and
Oh, yeah,
this
tipping.
eventually, but
there's, like-
I will say the one thing that really pissed me off that I found out recently was that they charge their employees for meals even if they don't eat.
Huh.
Oh yeah, that's messed
So
up.
Huh.
they're literally taking money out of their paychecks for food that they're not even losing.
Yeah, how is that legal?
Yeah, because it's part of like
Part of
their
their
whole
con-
employment there.
their
It's
employment.
part of the agreement that they have apparently too. It's just
Yeah.
like if you work here, you get a meal, but we're going to charge you $3 a day for it. So
I mean,
over the
shit.
course of 2
Okay.
weeks, I mean,
Charging me $3 for a Waffle House meal a day? Yeah, I'm good with that.
yeah, but if they don't eat it, then what are they paying for?
Yeah, I know that part sucks.
That's
but I make sure
that's
I
the
eat every
issue.
day.
It's just like if they're not using it, they should
I mean,
be
who's
able to
not gonna-
keep their
I
money
could
because
eat
they're
bacon
working
and
for
eggs
that
every
money.
day.
So I'm sorry, Whoa, you fucked up on that one.
Yeah.
You're fucked
Yeah.
up on that.
I mean, I see where they were going with it, but you shouldn't do that to your employees.
I mean, even in nice restaurants, you get tired of eating the same food all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But hold on, just to finish up that point.
Okay.
Like the tips generally do work out, but in places where they don't have automatic gratuity in a lot of situations,
Yeah.
and usually it's places that overstaff. Because I've had many a time when I wasn't. You kind of have a tier list as a manager based on here's the person that I would let stay on because they can handle more volume, and here's the person that just can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just,
Yes.
and it could be someone that has a physical disability that is,
Yeah.
but hey, you can't keep up with his busy, so you're first cut.
Yeah.
And I've been in places where it's
Yeah.
like, hey, I drove an hour through traffic to get here. I had to pay for parking
Yeah.
at like Atlantic Station.
Yeah.
So I'm coming to work, and I've only been here 2 hours. It's slow, so now I'm going to get cut. And it's like,
Nah, no.
Yeah, I spent money
Legally,
to
I
come
think
in.
they have to pay you for 4 hours, regardless of.
I
anything.
never got. I mean, if I did at
Regardless.
$2.13 an hour, I never.
Regardless,
it never made a difference.
I think legally they have to. I'm pretty
Well,
sure there's a legal standpoint.
That's the other
where they
part.
have
That's
to.
the whole reason why I'm talking about this is because like things like that. That's why the
happens.
system kind of is broken in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. Because a lot, and sometimes like you were talking about, if the volume isn't there, they end up spending money to get there just
Yeah.
to go to work
Yeah.
and not make anything.
Yeah. And that is unfair. Now, that is the unfair aspect of it. But fucked gratuity, automated gratuity, that's I hate that. If I go to a restaurant, now, parties of like 6 or more, 8 or more, gratuity
Yeah.
should be included, you know what I'm saying? Because that server is only going to get that party, and that server is going to be focused on that party.
Yeah, that's all they.
But
get
when
to
I go
do.
to restaurants and I see gratuity included, no matter what, like, fuck you.
Then it's not
now
gratuity.
I am paying your employee's wage. Now I'm not tipping on the service that I'm getting, because
Yeah.
the service could be whatever. They already know that they're going to get their tip. The tip is already guaranteed.
And if that's
and I
the
don't
case, just
agree with
raise your
that.
prices.
Yeah,
Like if you're
Yeah.
going to do that anyway, like
Yeah.
what is it?
that's
does
what
that
I'm
matter?
saying.
Because they can still
That's what
go
I'm
back
saying.
and pay them the bare, not even minimum wage. That gratuity that they
Yeah.
add on is then on it is used for their tax purposes. They get to avoid the actual
That's
labor
true,
costs
because
and their
it's
taxes.
not sales tax.
Yeah.
So now you can charge less, and then you pay, like then you put the tax.
Yeah,
you
it's
put the
a
onus on
game.
the employee, and you lower your you probably lower your employment tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Burden.
That's
Yeah.
the reason why this system
Yeah.
grew into this, is because that's where I was trying to get to. That's why people were trying to avoid this. That's the opposition.
Business
opposition-
owners, business owners were trying to avoid this.
Well, yeah, American people were doing it. Like it was called un-American. It was called all these things because it was they saw it as a way of basically taking the oppressive form of governments that America basically was created to avoid, and they saw them all of a sudden being like, we're going back to that. Like all of a sudden
Yeah,
you're making me pay your wages.
Yeah.
When like, well, why? Like I'm already paying your wage if I give you my service. If I show up and I
you sell me
buy
a
something,
product,
you sell me a
yeah.
product, I should be able to. That should be paying your wages,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Why am I having to pay more on top of that? And that was the opposition.
Yeah.
And then they had other people that were like, well, this is actually really beneficial because now we can actually, lower the cost for a lot of these things. It'll stimulate the economy because then more people are spending more money. And then these people that are in these industries,
Yeah.
are able to make their money at the same time while releasing the responsibility on the companies and on these on this whole industry.
Yeah. What baffles me is, as an entrepreneur, starting a business is meant to be you take on risk, but you get the most reward.
Yeah.
But they want to mitigate that risk by putting it off onto other people, and yet the restaurant industry sees more businesses open and close within the same year
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
many other industries.
Yes.
So they're
Yes.
using these advantages,
Facts.
and they still can't make it.
Yeah.
That is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
A lot of industries don't get that kind of break.
Yeah.
They
Well,
can't
that's because there's
move
also
that
not
risk
as much
over.
saturation. Like this opened up the floodgates, and now all of a sudden it's
They're
like
everywhere.
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere without all of a sudden seeing like you have entire shopping centers that are just basically just fucking cafeterias.
Yeah.
It's like there's a restaurant, there's a restaurant, there's a restaurant, there's a restaurant, there's a restaurant. There's a Walmart. Awesome.
There's a Walmart.
Fun fact: this year we had more bankruptcies than the Great Depression. Or
Oh,
like
wow.
financial crisis.
I mean, they are calling it the silent depression.
But it was,
That's what
and
we're
then
in
next
right
year
now.
we're probably going to see more. They're calling it like
Yeah.
the bankruptcy boom. There's a lot
Wow.
of businesses that are going bankrupt.
They're just declaring. I mean, it's the easy way out.
It's all kinds of like leveraged like debts and all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
like
All
corporate ways of working around stuff.
Yeah.
But still, businesses are failing.
Yeah.
Businesses are feeling all. We just had what was it? I think Hobnob's about to fucking close in December.
What the fuck did you say? Hobnob?
Hobnob, yeah.
The fuck is Hobnob?
It's a tavern, yeah.
It's a tavern.
Hobnob.
I think that place should have closed a long
there's
time ago.
there's a lot of places that are. There was one that just closed the other day. And it's all because of rent prices.
Hobnob.
Because people are
Rent
so
prices
many
is
people are
fucking it
flooding
up.
into like Atlanta and trying to like they're boosting the fucking
I'm still stuck
prices.
on Hobnob.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't go nowhere else. I can't get past Hobnob.
You gotta be you
The
better
fuck?
go quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
I
That
don't
was a speed bump I wasn't ready for.
Rusty Nail closed
I
a
hit
few
that
years
speed bump
ago.
hard. What the?
Yeah.
Rusty
Rusty Nail was a dive.
Oh,
But it was
I would hope
it
so.
was a great dive.
Somebody fact check that real quick because I don't want to put that out there and all of a sudden get Hobnob in trouble.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that
Hobnob,
I
if you're not closed.
because I was reading
Yeah,
it
we'll
on because
find out.
after another restaurant closed, I was reading this whole thing and they gave me a whole list of like closures that are planned for this year because
wow.
yeah, there's a lot of places they're all getting pushed out because they these areas are becoming more affluent and rent's going up to
Yeah.
like 3 times as much.
That's what I was saying
So
not too long ago. I was like, man,
But
the industry's got to change. We have got to change it.
the industry does need
All
to
right,
change.
there isn't any readily apparent information about it closing. This is all hearsay. We don't
Yeah.
know if Hobnob is closing. Also,
Okay.
you don't typically just announce to the world that you're closing
Yeah, I know, right?
because business just.
You ever been fired
so-
from a job like that?
I can't
Showed up.
remember.
Yeah,
and
that's
no-
not
no
great
door?
for employees because they're all just going to be like, "Cool,
Yeah.
you're closing.
Yeah.
Bye."
Yeah, exactly.
I've shown up to work and that
I don't want
happens.
to put that out there and be like, "Hey, do that." I know it started with an H, but there is a place that did schedule their closing for December.
So if you work at a restaurant with starts with an H, says
And
watch
they're
out.
closing down.
Be careful.
The H's
Be
are
careful.
going down.
Yeah, you're gonna show up one day and you're gonna be waiting for the manager to come unlock the door, and no one's ever gonna come.
No one shows
I've
up.
been there, bro.
No, yeah, that's happens.
It's happened to me. It's where we showed up. There was like 4 or 5 of us just waiting outside for somebody to come unlock the door.
And no one ever goes.
And we're calling the manager and we're like, hey, what's going on? But not answering, and then finally one of the servers gets a hold of another manager who heard from another manager, like, oh yeah, we closed the restaurant down. We're not opening up ever again. And like, you motherfuckers didn't tell us at all.
You
Yeah.
what?
We drove all the way here.
Also, if
And
I
then just
couldn't get
got
hold
us
of a
standing
manager,
here?
who the fuck do I call to get my last paycheck?
Yeah. Oh, they'll be mailed out.
Oh yeah, we'll mail it to you.
We'll mail it to you.
We're never gonna see you again. We're gonna.
Yeah.
And then you see them opening up another
Yeah.
place down the
Yeah.
road. You're like,
Oh, yeah. No, they moved to Florida.
you mother. Oh yeah. Out of state.
I've seen that stuff happen.
Yeah, I've seen it happen.
I've actually had it
Seen
happen
it
where
happen.
they closed down, sent out the checks bounced,
Oh.
and they were gone. They were in the wind.
Damn.
They
Damn. And then they
that's
declared
illegal.
bankruptcy. And
It's illegal.
It's
Yeah.
illegal, and so then they had the cops after him, and then all of a sudden, it's just like everybody's wondering. It's just like, are they ever going to find this motherfucker?
Yeah.
Like,
But you're never going to get paid for
yeah,
your
we never,
service.
we never got our
Not.
paychecks.
Never got your paycheck.
Man,
That's our industry, man.
That is.
That's why stuff like
is.
this is like. That's why I wanted to do this episode. It's like I want to advocate. I want to be like,
Yeah.
hey, on both sides of the fence, I want to kind of give people this information and be armed, be ready
yeah.
with this information, so that way you know what you're doing and you know where it comes from, you know why it's
Yeah.
ingrained. Because like we were talking about, like I think we left off with the tipping was like, and they actually illegal. They made it illegal,
Yep.
and so they tried to ban it. I think it was in the 20s though. It was like right there after the Great Depression, or like the beginning of the Great Depression or something, and Prohibition as well.
Yep.
Really kind of all of
Prohibition.
a sudden solidifying it, because
Yep.
with all those, all of a sudden the
Yep.
only way for these employees to make money especially during Prohibition, was through tips.
Slide a little $5 bill, and then you can get your drinks. You could get something. You can get to ensure prompt
Especially if
service.
you're just desperate for money.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
Yep.
I got you.
Yep.
So they were
Exactly.
selling poison out of
Yep.
these speakeasies,
Yep.
but the only way for to do it
too,
was
you remember
to
that
tip.
little fact, that we heard about the gangsters, like the mafia and stuff like that. They would tip certain bartenders and servers to be like, whatever you heard at this table, you never heard at this table. Here's a $5 bill, and you never heard nothing. If the cops ever come talking to you about, hey, we saw so and so, saying in the restaurant,
Listen
Tony
here,
Two
wise
Toes,
guy.
Tony Two
Here's a
Toes,
$10 beer.
yeah. You never catch me,
You don't
Cubba.
say a word about what you saw at this table here. You see?
Zip it. Don't be singing like a canary.
Not to be critical, sir, but you're yelling a lot. That's
That's why I'm giving you the money. So that way you won't talk about it. You got to speak as loud as I want. I have very, very large problems with the control of my voice.
that you're taking the money, the hush money.
Hush.
If you could say that to my lapel. You can trust me.
You can trust me.
No.
I don't think we can trust him.
Definitely not trusting
That
him. I'm
lapel
outta
looks
here.
so really big, and I don't think they have the technology to make smaller mics.
No.
Nah, that's just one of those big flowers that squirt you
That's
in the face.
why, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they were still using like the hollow microphones too. It's like it's just this guy with like a hollow mic just shoved into his shirt, just like, please say that into the can.
It was just like this microphone, like this,
Just
taped to their chest. What was that again? What did you say?
Yeah, like, and so prohibition kind of was the thing that I think solidified it in as an industry standard. Because after that point, that's when the government and everybody kind of conceded and was like, all right, this is what we're going to do.
Yep.
And then we didn't know how to fucking deal with it as in legislation with taxes and all that kind of stuff. That's when all of a sudden minimum wage, all that shit just started all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Everything started happening because we tipped. Tipping fucking opened floodgates for a lot of legislation.
Fucking in there.
Yeah. Because then there had to be a base. There had to be a minimum wage that we agreed upon, you know?
Yeah,
if you're going to pay the employee this much, does their tips equal this much to make it a livable, substantial amount?
Yeah. And then the tax, and then with there's not being any way to tax the actual tips at the time, they had to figure that out.
Yep.
And that's when all of a sudden, that's why they had to start reporting tips as income.
Yep.
And that, I think it happened in the 60s. It was like 1966.
Wow.
It was that, like, it took that long. Like, this is how long tipping has been doing this.
Yeah.
So from 1850, it already was over 100 years after it was first introduced before we finally had legislation to kind of govern and be like,
try to
if this is
regulate.
here,
Yeah.
let's figure out how to make
This
this
is
work.
how we're going to do this. But again, I guess it works for us, you know? I don't know.
It's
only
worked so far.
perspective I have is that I hate servers coming back being like, "Oh, I worked so hard and I only made $300." Like, bitch, you were here for 4 hours.
Yeah,
Like, shut the fuck up, bro. Like, I was here for 10 hours. I've been here for 12 hours.
They should not be bitching after 4 hours.
You know.
Oh, it happens. all
But
the time.
again, that it happens because a lot of servers, you know, saying they work dinner service. They only have to be there an hour before their shift starts. And if you're usually that person, first in, first out, you know, we know the FIFO rule. So the first person that's there rolling silverware, getting all the tables set, they're cut first. We do cuts, you know, so there's first cut, second cut, third cut. And then there's closers because closers don't have to come in and do any of that work. They just come in as soon as the restaurant opens up and boom, out the gate. They're making money. They're making tips. They're sitting tables. They're doing all this, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's it. When you, especially working on tips, like, if I don't have a table, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm just standing here.
yeah, dude.
Every
That's why
server
servers want to get
complains
cut.
about
It's
that.
like, I'm just standing here making $2.13 an hour. Can I leave?
No, you can't. Because you're there.
It's like,
for
I'm just
$2.13 for
accruing
that
more
1 hour.
taxes right now. I don't want that.
I'm just sitting here. So if this happens a few days in a row, peace out. It's been fun. I'm going to go find somewhere that's actually got business.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not hanging out
yeah,
here because the hourly wage for me sitting around is nothing.
is nothing.
Yep.
Nothing.
Because your tips equal out pretty darn good.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy for a server to get poached. They
Yeah.
they can guarantee like, hey, we're gonna be busy. We got a party season coming up. You go, bet I'm going. Bye.
I'm out.
Peace. It's been good.
Yep.
Or I'll work both, and then whichever one works out, I'll leave that shitty one, stay
That's
with the one that
smart.
works.
That's smart.
A lot of service
Yeah.
bartenders work multiple
Or just,
places.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like some of them just like hop back and forth between places.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
oh yeah, okay, great. This is your on season. I'm on.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We're dying down here. These guys are picking up. I'm gonna go over here. Oh, it's your on season again. I'm gonna go back here. And they have no. And employers usually don't care. They're like, because during their slow seasons, they usually lose employees.
Yeah.
You know, in the fast seasons, they're like, I already know you. I know you do a good job. You come here every year. Let's go.
Yeah, that
go.
rapport helps a lot, and you build a reputation.
Yeah.
As long as
It
you
is
show
good.
up, you do a good job, you're more likely to be invited back. Like especially like
Yep.
country clubs when they're busy.
Oh yeah.
Down on the south end on the beach. Like there's bartenders that just travel up north in the summer and travel to the south in the winter because that's when they get real busy. I got something on my.
No, this is just still like every time I breathe now because like okay, I shave my face obviously. If you haven't figured that out.
Yeah. Finally.
And now
You
I
don't have
breathe
a
through my
hobo
nose,
in here
and
no
it's getting cold right here, and I just feel so weird. It's because like I'm actually making myself cold by breathing. I forgot what
kinda
that was
odd.
like. But yeah, so
odd.
I'm sure there's plenty more like after that timeline that we can get into about like what happened with tips. And,
Yeah.
like, but that's really what the story I wanted to tell though. Like you guys got all the what I wanted to actually get into was. That's how it became so ingrained. That is why it is intertwined in our system so fucking much now.
Yeah.
Is because it was a distribution of labor cost. And
it stuck.
And it stuck because it made it a lot easier, and it made a big boom in our industry. And now the industry is very saturated, which is why we have so many closures.
Yeah. Honestly, when rideshare and food delivery came around, like I feel like that was the biggest push since restaurants. As far
that's
as
true.
Tippable service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because now you just getting food delivered. You're expected to tip. You get a ride. You're expected to.
I think you
saw the rise in ghost kitchens.
Tip taxi drivers. You always tip pizza deliveries. I think we've always done it.
Yeah.
I just think that they're already charging so much. Like the company is already charging me to do this, to do that. There's already so many taxes and fees.
There's something about the personalized
and then
service
I have
of a
to tip
taxi
on top
driver,
of it.
though.
You know, it was okay when they're making the food. Like when I go to a restaurant, the food prices are a little bit lower. You know what I'm saying? Because they've accounted for that. You know, so they don't have to have $100 steak. They can have a $50 steak because you're going to give $20 to $30 tip on that. So the restaurant saves money here. The customer picks up that slack there. Their food was a little bit cheaper, but they had to pay for their service. And it kind of gives the customer that kind of option. If they had good service, they can tip really high. I still got good food for a good price. Now, what was the service? The service is left up to you depending on how you want to pay for the service. You know? Like when you look at it that way, it's not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? You got to remember that tipping is about the service that you receive. And servers and bartenders, that's what I'm going to tip you on. That's how all of us should be tipping you on. We should be tipping you on the service.
Unfortunately, that's not the case, and that's not how America is built.
I know. You feel obligated to give a 20% tip.
That's the thing. Is like that's the whole point of what I was trying to talk about. Is like this is no longer tipping is no longer about good service or bad service. Tipping is now entirely about the fact of like businesses rely on them, and if you don't tip, that means that place is still going to close because they'll lose employees.
Yeah,
and if they lose employees, they can't serve you, and if they can't serve you, then they go under. So if you want that place to survive, you still have to tip even bad service.
Yeah. Like Curtis said, he went to a job and he was standing there for hours and there was no customers there for him to make money off of. Then he's going to go somewhere where there are customers.
Yeah.
To where the business could have kept a good employee like Curtis if they would have just paid him a fair wage to begin with.
And that's the thing.
No, I still wouldn't have stuck around.
Probably not. Maybe.
Really? It's just because it was so boring? Like, regardless?
If I'm getting paid to just stand there, it's like I need to do stuff. I'm not cool with just standing here.
Shit, I will. I'll stand there.
You'd be surprised at how many people would be cool with that.
I'll say me.
I don't want to do that.
I can stand here and you're going to pay me? Okay.
And like, I doubt there's no way they were going to pay me enough hourly to just stand there.
But if
I do this because I want to interact. It'd be like getting paid to cook and you just never cooked anything.
Yeah.
You just stood in the back waiting for orders to come in.
Yeah.
And I've been in the back of kitchens like, you guys cool? And like, we're fucking bored as shit.
Yeah, we're bored as shit.
Like, what would you?
But we're happy because we're getting paid to be bored as shit.
Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that kind of stuff where it's just like, okay, is it the food, is it the service, or is it the prices? That's the problem in those establishments. So if you don't have a lot of customers, it also can come down to location.
Yeah.
There's factors. That's why it's a big risk when you open up one of these places.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with a place like that, there's a lot of questions that that go out. It's just like, okay, great. Why was it dead? Was it dead because of the service? Tipping probably wouldn't have saved that place if the service is just naturally bad. Or
bad location.
Bad location. Is there just no foot traffic? Is there nobody driving past it? Is it just out in the middle of nowhere and then nobody goes there?
In my experience, that's usually what it is.
Yeah.
Like working up in Canton, Georgia, we worked for a gastropub that did fairly well, but they also had a sister restaurant right down the street that was an Italian place, and that place was never busy. You maybe got a couple tables in a night. The few times I did work in there, but they were like the competition. There was like 4 or 5 restaurants in the area that all did pretty well, but it's a small area. Everyone already knows what's there. They were charging too much and going too upscale for the clientele in the area.
Yeah,
and it was like, this is just this isn't gonna work. No one, like, the area is older, like they're 60 plus. A lot of them are retired. They're not looking to spend this much money on duck ricotta.
You're gonna do
they want to get a sandwich. They want to get soup. They want to get a burger, but they're not.
Dude, I was in a place out in fucking God, what was it? It was like on the there's a city like right there on the border of Alabama and Georgia. I can't remember the name of it right now. I was there for a wedding, but it's this really small town, right? Like you can walk across it.
Oh wow.
And they had this one restaurant that we went to, and it was like supposed to be like this really one of the nicest places in town. Super, like but it does not look like that. Like you can see it's like a small town, so it's like nothing there. It's like their version of fancy is just like, oh wow, like you're basically the
It has
basement.
26 Google reviews.
Yeah. But it had possibly the worst chicken marsala I'd ever had in my fucking life. But it was just like all these high prices, all this kind of stuff. Everything was hiked up. It was just I'm sitting here, I'm eating it, trying my best because I'm there for a wedding. I'm there with the wedding guests and everything like that, and trying my best to enjoy it because
Not
I'm
like your chef come out in you and be like, "This is terrible."
The chef was just wandering around the restaurant too. He was that kind of guy who was just like wandering around, checking everybody out. Had chef coat like halfway open, everything.
Oh my god! Did you have a gold chain on?
I don't know, but I didn't look.
Awesome.
Yeah, that would have been great.
No wonder
wearing
gold chain.
Showing it off. Hey,
You like that?
you like that chicken marsala?
Of course.
It's
yeah,
delicious.
yeah. It was
wonderful. Thanks,
great.
chef.
I'll be out front
terrible.
smoking.
Yeah.
Like it came
Terrible.
out pink.
What?
Yeah, it was weird, dude.
Oh, they like soaked their chicken in the red wine.
They did that kind of shit, and then they also
It was probably cheap red wine too, like the box red wine.
and
Oh,
they creamed the hell out of it. You can tell that it was just like mostly heavy cream.
Man.
It was just like one of those
Yeah.
things where I was just like, it's a marsala, dude. All you need is the fucking
Yeah.
butter, flour from the fucking.
Yeah.
You already have the flour from the fried chicken that you're the fried cutlet. Butter. Throw in the fucking wine.
Marcella, reduce
Boom.
it. Yeah.
Chicken stock. Guess what? You're done.
You're done.
Why are you adding cream to this shit?
Yeah.
But anyways, that was another. That's an example though of like one of those places. But I still felt obligated to tip.
To tip.
I felt like I had to tip.
What did you tip though? Did you tip good? Now, did the food make you want to tip less, or was the service still like?
Food didn't want to make me tip less because I'm not tipping on the food.
Yeah, you're not tipping on the food.
I'm tipping on service.
Good.
Service was great. Server was
took
fine.
care of your party, got your drinks, refilled
All
your
that kind of
drinks.
stuff.
I mean, that's all the
But
things
again,
that
my
I base
tips
on.
usually don't vary on that kind of stuff unless it's just absolutely terrible. Like if I have like a terrible experience, I'm still tipping, but it's usually going to be about 15%. If it's a really great fucking service, I'm tipping more like 30.
Shit, right?
Yeah.
I got a notification from my credit card the other day saying that I tipped like 70%, and they wanted to make sure that it wasn't a mistake. And I was like, yeah, I had really good service. The bartender was good. The food was good.
Yeah.
I had great service. I had a great conversation with them. I was telling them about the podcast. They supposedly listen to the podcast now. So, I gave the dude I gave him a fat tip.
When I was flush with cash, that's the kind of shit I would do all the time.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
again, like that's what I was trying to get to at the beginning before though, was just trying to. America has built it so much into the system that the companies rely on tipping.
They do.
100%.
I mean, the companies and the employees rely on it now. If you take that tipping away from front of the house is
gone.
They might be mad. Yeah.
They're gone.
Right, they're gone.
If the only way to change this is that means the whole industry is going to take a hit.
Yeah.
Like the industry is, you're not going to have as many employees.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to leave, and businesses are going to shut down.
Yeah.
Things are going to get very, very tight, and you're going to see a lot less businesses. But the businesses that remain are the good ones. They're going to be the ones that have earned their right to stick around.
And maybe that's what needs to happen. I don't know.
Maybe,
can't predict
but
the future.
if we, but
I'm not
I think
Nostradamus.
and I think the big thing that I'm trying to get to at the very end here, because we're about to wrap this up.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing not to tip. And I think that tipping is ridiculous. I absolutely think that it's a practice that should entirely be about the service that you get and should entirely be a gift to the employee as a way of saying and reward for good service.
Absolutely.
It should not be something that they have to use and rely
some
on
states
for
have
their
that.
entire income.
Some states do have that, They still have to pay you minimum wage, federal $7.25.
Even the minimum wage is nothing.
And then tips on top of that. I mean, but that's
in
what
many
it
cases
is.
there's
Yes.
also
That's a whole nother minimum wage argument,
state
though.
minimum wage. Like
Yeah.
California's like 15 an hour, so in that case,
Yeah.
you may have to meet that instead of 7.25
No,
or whatever.
no. In California, like the service industries, they get paid minimum wage. So if the minimum wage, if their state minimum wage is $15, or it might be the federal minimum wage. I don't know what they go off of, but I know for a fact that even back in the day, when I was still working there and whatnot, servers always got paid $7.25 an hour plus their tips. or $7.50, whatever the minimum wage. $7.25 or $7.50. I never remember.
I think federal $7.25.
Is it still $7.25? God, I
That's
think I would remember after 15 years.
That's kind of what I was
Georgia doesn't have to. Georgia, Colorado, Florida.
No, they can still pay you guys like $2.15 an hour.
Exactly.
$2.13.
Yep,
$2.13.
$2.13. Yep.
Can't even make it a round number. Just got.
But New
Yeah,
York,
it's like, why was
California-
that the number? Like, what
Yeah,
did,
I know, right?
where did you think 213 was going to get people?
They did math, you know what I'm saying? Because on 213, starting from there, you're guaranteed to make enough tips if you make like 10% or 20%
Well,
off
that's
of
the point.
each
That's the point that I'm
person,
trying
blah,
to make
blah,
here.
blah.
Is if you go out,
They kind of averaged it.
if you do go out though, do tip.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Do
and
tip.
if you do have a bad service, tip.
Tip, but very low.
You don't.
Let 'em
You
know.
can. Your tip can change, but don't
Yeah.
be like that person
Let
who's
'em
just
know.
going to be like, you spend like $100 or something like that, and then next thing you know, you just give them like $1, and it's be like, well, it's because you suck. It's like that person. Yeah, maybe they're having an off day. Maybe they're
Maybe
having
they are.
something happen in their life because they're a
But
human being.
That affected me.
That and that did. It maybe affected your going out, but. With our industry, with how some of these people operate, I mean, like how many people don't go out more? You know, they don't go out little anymore. I mean, like I think it used to be like a whole event. Like people would be like, I'd save up and save up and save up, go out like once every like a month or something like that, or 2 months.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like it's such an industry where it's like people just have no problem. Just once a week, it's our date night.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this, it's that.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to see that person or that person is going to be seeing a lot more people. They're
Absolutely.
allowed to have a fucking bad day.
But the
Give them
service
a
gets
tip.
better. The tips get better. I mean, it gives it that. It does. It gives you that incentive to give good service.
Yeah,
I
but-
said I'm a fan of the tipping industry. My only point that I hate is that the chefs, the cooks, we're
We
the
don't
ones
see any
that
of it?
get fucked. Yeah, we're the ones back there making the beautiful food, making everything delicious, making sure that your food and your actual night is good. Because that's why I asked you earlier. Now, the Marcella was terrible, but that didn't persuade you on tipping, you know, and
No.
it doesn't on me either. You know, the food can be terrible, the food can be good. That's not the reason that I tip. But I think that we should implement a new tipping system to where we can add to that, to where we tip our chefs, we tip our cooks. If you have really good
That's-
food, like
Add
that
more.
meal,
Just add more to
That's
the
what I'm
tipping.
saying.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, that's the whole point of that I'm trying to argue against. Like, we don't need to be encouraging more and more and more
I'm
responsibility
encouraging
on the customer to be tipping. Like,
It's gonna
I
come
like the
one way or
idea of
another.
tipping
Because
as a
all
gift.
you're saying is the business owner should be making more money, and you should be on the hook. Because if you don't get tipped, that's your problem, not the business owner's problem.
No, what I'm saying is that we go to how it was before, to where I still make my wages, and like Zach said, I still make that, but for an extra good job. You did an extra good job. Here's a tip on top of what you're already making. I'm already making $15 an hour, $20 an hour, and now I did an extra good job. Here's an extra $5, $10. That extra $5, $10, because you're not going to get it throughout the whole night. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody. But if you do a good job, you go above and beyond. That's what I believe
we
it's
need
there
to-
for.
Hey, we're starting to reach our time, but you know what?
Yes.
You guys want to do like a two-parter here? Because like I feel like now we're getting into the other side. Now
Yeah.
we've reached modern day, and I think it's time to settle the debate of
We need some listener
like,
reviews also.
fucking front of house versus back of house. Why is the back of house? How where do we move forward with this?
We can come back with
Now that we have the information, now that we've given this information, what do we do with it?
Yeah, because imagine if the roles were switched. Imagine if front of the house got paid a salary, you know what I'm saying, or a wage,
Yeah.
and back of the house relied on it. Like, would you still be a chef if they paid you $2.13 an hour? But for every dish you make $20 off of that dish. Every time you make that salmon dish, you know what I'm saying?
I think I'd
And-
definitely be making better food.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? It would drive you to make better food. You would want that better food. That way when that customer has that really delicious food. I mean, we already do that without getting tipped.
All right.
We've talked
Well,
about
then we
it
know what we're
before.
talking about next
All right,
week.
yes.
We know what we're talking about next
All
week.
right,
then.
deal.
All right.
Part two.
I just
stay
want,
chimed in.
but like I said, just to finish it off. Even they could be having a bad day,
Yeah.
still leave at least a little something. Give them something.
A little.
I'm still going to advocate for my front of house family.
Fuck front of the
Give
house.
them.
I'm playing.
Give
I'm
them
playing.
something. Give them some
I
love.
love you. I got too
love
many
you guys.
families.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you pissed him off.
I know.
Cuddles.
I got too many friends in the front of the house. Everybody that heard that, I didn't mean that, okay? My daughter's front of the house.
Clocking out and everything.
Convincing
Clocking
everyone
out.
to mod everything.
Yep. You just basically made sure that everybody gets pissed now. Everybody's gonna get modded and
I mean, people are usually pissed at me anyway, so.
start
Let it happen.
sandbagging the fucking kitchen.
Oh, fuck. I'll slam the window, bro. You fuck me, I fuck you. Fuck on me, I fuck you.
You fuck me, I fuck you.
This is what friends really do, okay?
Yeah. How you doing today? How you doing today? Hey. We're gonna see clean shaved Zach.
Can't believe I'm letting you do this.
I know, right? I'm gonna line you up though, son. Don't worry.
Oh god, that definitely does not feel safe.
Close that mouth.
In the mouth.
All right, I think that's pretty good.
Thank you, Mr. Barber, sir.